Hey, what's your problem? You have business problems? We have business solutions.
Not guaranteed.
Well, maybe.
Yeah.
Life is a fight.
It is.
In business, every day is a fight.
Oh, yeah.
So, hey, what's your problem?
Yes, thank you, John David Wells from the Wells Report. Check him out on Facebook. Great friend of mine. Very graceful to do the voiceover for this program. This is the What's Your Problem podcast, where we talk to Middle Tennessee business owners and professionals about that one thing. Because it's always something that keeps you up. When you own or run or operate or you're in sales, it's always something when you have, you're kind of responsible for your income. This is a video and audio podcast. Go to whatsyourproblempodcast.com. And this is the year. I've proclaimed it. I'm putting it out there. 10,000 downloads per episode. Help me get there. How can you help me? No, wait a minute. That's the other way around. How can I help you? I don't know. 10,000 downloads. I'm putting it out there. Let's see if we can 10x it and, land at 1,000 or 2,000. So help me out if you can. Check us out. whatsyourproblempodcast.com. Rate, review, share, and subscribe. All that fun stuff. I am your host, Jim McCarthy with JimMcCarthyVoiceovers.com. And today, first time appearing on this podcast, a longtime friend. You and I go back 15 years.
Yeah.
Do you believe that?
I mean, only because I saw myself in the mirror before.
Look, I think we're both about the same age. I have aged far worse than you have, okay? Mignon Francois from the, I'm going to say, world famous Cupcake Collection.
I'll take it.
There we go. You and I met a long time ago when I worked in the old radio ranch. You came in to do a spot, and I did this technique that I would interview people, much like I'm doing now. Mm-hmm. And because a lot of clients would come in and record their spots and read off of a script, which I would, let's read off the script, and sure, that sounds good. Now let me take the script from you. Now let's just talk. Mm-hmm. Let's just, who are you? What do you do? Why do you do it? Who are your customers? Do they like you? Why do they keep on coming back? And, typically in about 10 or 15 minutes, I'd have probably about 2 or 3 different 30-second spots. Mm-hmm. With you just talked for like 50 minutes, almost an hour. And it was one of those things where I was like, oh my goodness, what a story. Mm-hmm. So that led to the video that we did, which still exists today on YouTube. We'll put it in the notes.
Yes, it's one of the most popular
videos ever.
Yeah, that it's about the Cupcake Collection.
Right.
I'm still grateful for it. I wonder what it would be if we went back to that video and took everything that you didn't use and made a new video and see if it tells a different story. It probably still tells the pieces of the story that people have longed to know.
Because it was the same kind of scenario where it was about 45 minutes of recording, and I baked it down to about an 7 or 8 minute video, I think.
Only because you couldn't get it any shorter. You were like, look,
there's too much good stuff in there.
I wanted it to be shorter, but you just ran your mouth so
But it showed off your affable personality. You're so likable. And there's a reason why your business has succeeded over the years. But before we get into the meat and potatoes, we're going to do something. We always give people the choice. You went with the... It's the random question. No, that's not what I wanted. We'll just go with that. Why not? That's not what I was expecting. But it's a ripoff from the Rich Redmond show. It's the random question, which normally I have a music bed. Let me see if I can pull something up here. We'll do the tension bed. Here we go. There we go. The Random 5 is brought to you by it'syourshow.co. If you need a podcast like this one, where actually things go right, because I'm actually doing this on the fly and sometimes things happen, sometimes they don't. Let us know. It'syourshow.co. Podcasts are the new marketing machines where you can derive a whole host of clips and social media content, the shorts, from a podcast, as well as have the long form content and build that audience. So check us out, it'syourshow.co. Mignon, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Question number 1. Here we go.
I feel like I'm on
like on a game show.
show.
What's the most embarrassing story from your childhood?
Oh my goodness. There's so many.
Right? I know I got them.
The most embarrassing story from my childhood? Childhood?
Childhood in general? You just want to go with that?
I can't think. Probably the first day of the 9th grade.
What was that all about?
I had just gone to a public school. I had been in private school all this time, and I only chose this school because all of my friends in the neighborhood were going there. And this is going to be my first time being able to go to school with my friends.
Right.
And so my brother picked out my clothes that I was going to wear, and he went to a different school. He went to a very preppy school.
Right.
And this school was just very different. And what he picked me out was not
Kosher.
not for the first day of school at my school. And so like people were kind of, I wore a long dress that went down to my ankles. It was green and it was high-waisted and it had a white Oxford button-up shirt underneath it.
Right.
And I had on white patent leather shoes.
Let me get, this is around 89, 90, right?
Yeah, this is 1988. And
what a fun time.
Yeah, nobody really wanted to talk to me. Yeah, so
that's funny.
yeah,
Okay.
that's probably one of the most embarrassing things. I talk about it.
Question number 2. What animal is the most majestic?
Ooh, a lion?
I would say so.
Yeah.
I mean, elephant's pretty impressive too, though.
Yeah.
You know?
But you know what? An elephant being so big really could be the king of the jungle, but doesn't know who she is.
They're very intelligent.
So therefore, I picked the lion because the lion still dominates.
That's true. A lion in packs can take down an elephant. Question number 3. I always lose count. What's something that everyone knows is true, but we don't like to admit it? I think the existence of God.
I was thinking, it's something about God that I'm thinking of. I was going to say that heaven is real. Yeah.
Yeah, people don't like talking about it. Or
It's like
losing control of their life.
You can't talk about that in this environment. It's like,
well, I do anyway. We had Marty Ray on last week, and it was pretty much like a sermon. Yeah, listen to his podcast. It was amazing. What's the weirdest, question number 4, weirdest text or email you've gotten?
Oh, I get so many about things. Oh, I got a text message the other day from a guy asking me if I had made a decision on the offer to purchase my house. And I said, what?
What are you talking about?
Yeah, what are you talking about? Who is this? And so he told me, and I said, what are you talking about? And he said, well, I'm just, trying to see if you want to sell your house. I said, oh, that was really clever. Because I didn't tell you I was trying to sell my house. And you did not give me an offer.
Yeah, get in line with all the other real estate agents.
Right. But if you bring me $1 trillion, I might do it.
That's a good offer. $1 trillion. Question number 5. What always cheers you up when you think about it?
Oh, so much. Because I believe in joy. Probably what always cheers me up when I think about my grandchildren.
Yeah. I was going to say your kids. Sometimes I figured that would be that. That's a softball one right there. Yeah, that's an easy one.
They're so awesome. They are.
Well, there you go. That's the random 5 reprised. First time in a long time. It's made a comeback. Just got to find the right music bed for next time. Brought to you by it'syourshow.co. Check us out if you want a podcast like this without the mistakes that I make. Because I'm literally flying. I'm juggling as we do this show. I'm running the music. I'm running the board. I'm switching between 2 cameras. You name it. So forgive me for the mistake, all right? So here we go. You mentioned before the real estate reaching out to you. It reminds me a lot of people, and I think you've actually gotten a lot of traction in the last several years. LinkedIn, you get a lot of engagement. I see you on Instagram getting a lot of engagement, so kudos to you.
Bless the Lord. That's not me. It's my team.
Well, it's you too. It's who you are and what you embody. No,
because if I don't show up wherever they tell me, I don't know what the heck I'm doing.
It's your essence, okay? And your team certainly deploys it excellently. Whenever somebody friends you on LinkedIn, right, they connect with you, do you often get the instant messages that are like, hey, saw that you connected, and let me give you my entire spiel that's about 5 pages long of my pitch. Do you get that a lot? Because I get it a ton.
I don't, because all that stuff is sort of, I'm shielded from it.
Right.
Because I am a person who loves people, and I love to talk, and I love to engage. And a lot of times I've learned that that's really not, it's not really what that's out there for, not for authenticity. And so I'm shielded from a lot of those things, and I just get handed the authentic ones.
The other thing that reminded me of the real estate agent that reached out to you, I'm selling a whole bunch of camera equipment. I'm just going to look at the camera right now and give myself a cheap plug. A camera body and a couple of lenses. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to put them on Marketplace, Facebook Marketplace, and see what happens. Oh my gosh. You know how many scammers are out there?
Oh, man.
Out of the woodwork.
I was selling furniture and things like that when I was downsizing from my house, and yeah, people will try to get over.
Oh yeah. It's the typical line of questioning. Is it what condition is it in? How long have you had it? And I tell them that, and I've kind of picked up on their pattern. Their pattern over time.
No, the ones that I love are, I'll wire you the money, things like that. There are no questions. It's just like, oh, I'll take it and I'll give you more for you to do this also.
Yep. That's exactly the kind of stuff I'm getting. They want my email so they can send me an email from PayPal, Venmo, or Zelle. And one guy, he says, well, I sent you the email. Okay. I see the email. He said, yeah, just, send it out. Populate the box there with the tracking number, and then your funds will get released. I said, well, the problem is that on PayPal, it shows nothing. Well, it only shows in the email. Oh, really? In the email only, not on the actual app that says, hey, you've got funds that are waiting for you. All you got to do is plug in the tracking number, and we'll release it. Only through your email you say, okay, I got you. And you look at where it came from. It's like, some email that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So getting back to you and everything that you've been doing, give us a basic synopsis for those of the listeners that don't know you. You basically came here in 05, 06, almost like a refugee from Katrina, actually, right?
04.
04?
We got here in 04. A lot of people think that we came here because of Katrina.
Right.
We actually showed up before Katrina. We chose to make Nashville our home. And we actually housed my father and his household here. And I think that may be where the confusion comes in, because my dad was so charismatic and never really met a stranger that didn't like him.
Right.
And so as he was working on building the house where the Cupcake Collection is, people thought that we had come here also because of Katrina, but no.
I guess I was under the wrong impression, though.
Yeah, all this time you didn't know
I had no idea.
Yeah, we came here because we wanted to.
So the original house in Germantown, you built from the ground up?
No, the house in Germantown, so it was a condemned property.
Right.
And we had acquired that.
Right.
And we called my dad and asked him to come help to do the work, but he was too busy. When Hurricane Katrina hit, he all of a sudden had plenty of time on his hands.
Right.
So he came to do the work with my ex-husband because he was free.
Right. Yeah. So you get into this whole thing, the story of it, and we'll link the original video that we shot back in 08, 09 in the description. But just a nutshell, case of it, looking at the story of how everything began. You had no idea how to bake a cake.
Not out of a box.
Right. You needed to find a way to bring some income.
Yeah.
Right.
And I was listening to Dave Ramsey, who was telling people they could get out of debt by having a bake sale or garage sale.
Right.
Problem is, we sold everything we had to get to Nashville, so we couldn't have a garage sale, and I didn't know how to bake. So I had these 2 daughters who were 10 and 16, and they were baking all of the time, and I thought, well, I'll go to them. We'll do this together as a family. I presented the idea. They liked it. But as soon as we got started, my older daughter let me know she actually did have a plan. It had nothing to do with my little bakery idea.
What'd she want to do?
She was going back home to New Orleans, where we were from, as soon as she graduated from high school. So without her, my baby daughter's not interested in anymore. So I got to learn how to bake. Because in my head, I put out this sign that said bakery coming soon. And that meant that I told the world and I had to make good on the promise.
You've committed.
Yeah.
Let's figure this out now.
Yeah.
So tell the story, when you realized you were on the right track.
Yeah.
When did you know that?
I don't know that I ever knew that I was on the right track until it actually happened for me. The people were knocking on the door. It took me 2 years working like a job every day before that store ever even opened.
Well, isn't that the way it goes, though?
Yeah, but see, I didn't know that. I thought that you put a sign out, you tell people you're going to do something, and they just start coming.
Magically.
Yeah, we were going to church and telling people, and they said they would come.
Right.
People will always take your stuff as long as it's free, right? And I was baking and giving things away. I thought people were going to come just because we put a sign out there, but it really wasn't that way. And finding a place to put the business was difficult.
Right.
And not having money, we often didn't even have electricity in our household. So having electricity and figuring out how to keep this house that we had acquired but now we're losing was another challenge that I had in the midst of trying to open up a business at the same time.
Yeah. And we're kind of, as you can hear in the background, we've got things going on in the other parts of the house. So if you guys do hear that, that's what that is. We push through these things anyway.
Yeah.
So you had a lot of that going on, just back against the wall scenario.
I think I always had my back against the wall, though.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I think I always knew what it felt like to have my back up against the wall. I hear a song in my head right now about get your back up off the wall.
Right.
Do you have that on?
I don't think I do, but I probably could search for it next time. Make sure we have it come up.
Yeah, I feel like I was always in a position of scratching my way out of something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that. That's something that I can relate to.
Like I said, there's a silence that's in a house that has no electricity in it that my children found solitude in.
Comforting.
Yeah, they enjoyed being in a house sometimes with no electricity because it meant that mom was going to sing to them to sleep. It meant that they were going to rest really deeply. But that's not what a parent wants. I wanted my children to have what all the other kids had. And we were living by then in an affluent area of town. We didn't know it. We had come to Nashville with the thoughts of we're moving our children to the inner city.
Right.
Because we wanted them to have an inner city experience. We wanted it to be like what we had grown up with.
Right.
And so we decided to move into North Nashville. It is the most incarcerated zip code in the nation at the time. My children had to be in by the time the street lights were on. But we were excited and at home to be there. And I can't explain that for anyone except that we feel like we followed God into that neighborhood where people were afraid to come. Someone told me about the house that I was purchasing as my daughter was getting her hair braided just as we were getting ready to acquire that house. And she said, "Oh, I know that house. Someone got killed on that porch."
Oh, really?
And I was like, what? Where are we moving to? But it just never detoured us. We wanted to be in that part of town. And I think it was being in the inner city that enriched my children's lives more than any other experience we could have ever given them.
Well, I mean, God doesn't tell you to go to the comfortable places.
Amen.
Jesus went and did the uncomfortable things.
Yeah. I get and hung with the people that weren't necessarily so
Popular.
desirable or
Right.
popular. Yeah.
So I wasn't aware of that either. But the house in Germantown you bought in around that time, 05, 06?
We purchased the house in 05. It was condemned when we bought it.
Right.
It rained more on the inside than it did on the outside. And when we moved in, it had floors that are kind of like the ones in this room. We're just plywood floors.
Yep.
We had no coverings
Subfloor.
on the wall. And we had a half bathroom, which was a toilet and a tub. That's how we moved in
Wow.
because that's what we could afford.
And now, for those of you outside the Nashville area, Germantown is one of the most pricey areas of town. So kudos to you, because you're probably sitting on a pile of cash in that house. It's a beautiful neighborhood now.
What I love about God
Yeah.
is he takes beauty, he trades beauty for ashes. And that's what I could say happened to us there.
Right.
He took the ashes of my life and what that house was, and he turned it into something beautiful and put value on that thing.
Totally. Totally. So in that video that I said we'll have in the description, you'll be able to hear about the NES story, the anointed cupcake story, and I think there might be one or two other stories in that video. That gives you a good foundation of who Mignon is, where you came from, and the why, which I want to get into here, as to why you started the Cupcake Collection. You wanted people to be able to get a joy in their life.
Yeah.
Right?
I started it because I wanted field trip money. I wanted to be able to buy, help my daughter who was a senior be able to do senior trip things. I wanted to be able to help make ends meet. I didn't know that what I was doing had more to do with other people than it had to do with me.
Right.
That I was going to be fueling joy for people. And what I'm beginning to put together in my life is that in the kingdom of God, joy has a lot of value. There's a Bible verse that says, those who sow in tears will reap in joy. And when you sow a seed, it gets buried and it has to stay underground. And there's something that's happening that nobody can't see. And in that time that nobody can't see, it eventually comes, something sprouts up. And when you get to pull the harvest, there's joy that comes out of pulling your harvest, seeing a flower grow or being able to sell what you made. And that's been my life. In the times when I thought I was buried, I was being planted.
Right.
And in all of the tears that I cried, joy was coming. And I didn't know that I had to go through those things so that I could tell other people that joy comes in the morning. And the key is that joy does come.
Right.
Whatever you're experiencing, joy comes. And so it's the only place that I can go, I feel like, is you buy this product, which is not the thing that we're selling.
Yeah.
You come to my bakery to buy cupcakes. That's not the product that we're selling. We're selling joy.
Right.
And we're hoping when you experience it, you get that joy on the inside, and then you become the carrier of joy that you can't contain as you meet other people.
Well, it's also the feeling you get when you walk in. You if you're at the counter, it's a big, bright smile.
Yeah.
And I think at the beginning of the video that we did together initially, you said however many of your teeth, because you got a big.
My mom says that I show all of them.
Yeah.
How many teeth does a person have in their mouth? Because whatever it is, I have an extra dose in mine.
We need to get Dr. Kelly Rice on that. She's another client of mine. The Dr. Kelly Rice Show. Check that out. She's a dentist in Cool Springs, a wonderful woman. So what has happened since? I mean, you've had a lot of big things, a lot of influence that has germinated throughout Nashville. You've become like I'm going to say like a Nashville Business Journal darling. Yeah. Business influential darling. Very influential in the Nashville business scene, the Entrepreneur Center.
Yeah. I serve there on their board.
Yeah. You've done a lot of stuff over the past 15 years. What's been your favorite?
I don't know what can be my favorite thing, because I just am enjoying the service of it all.
Right.
But I think, can you even believe it yourself? Because I still have to pinch myself when I see the people standing in line for something that I made.
Yeah. And it just dawned on me, I said 15 years, but that's since I've met you.
Yeah.
So you've been in business.
The store's been open for 15 years, but I've been around for 17 because it took me 2 years to get it open. So yeah, you've been there since the beginning.
I guess I have, making videos and whatever else that you need.
And just doing whatever you could to help to propel the brand. And that's what God told me would happen. He told me that people would pray for my success because of the obedience that I exhibited in following him into something I didn't even know anything about.
Right.
And so sitting here all these years later and knowing that I'm getting to mentor other businesses now, and I serve on the Dean's Business School Board at Lipscomb University.
Nice.
This is the place where I was going to get my master's so that I could teach. And now I'm serving on the School of Business board.
And this is something that you did envision for yourself at one point. I remember you and I talked about it.
Yeah, I always knew that I was going to be famous. I just didn't know what for, and I didn't know how it was going to evolve.
I kind of feel the same way about myself. It just hasn't happened yet. So. But I guess we'll get there. And I hope it's for a good reason.
One of my favorite things that has happened in the process was getting a chance to interview with Hoda Kotb.
Nice. It's right.
Yes,
that's right.
She was a childhood hero of mine. When I was growing up in New Orleans, she was on the news.
Yeah.
And she sat behind the news desk, and she showed me that somebody that looked like me could be in that position. And when I got a chance to meet her in person, and she was everything that she was on TV. Because, sometimes you meet your childhood stars and you're just like...
Never meet your heroes. That's what they tell you.
But she was everything and more that I hoped she would be. And so getting a chance to be on the show with her and Jenna, and then to come back
How did that
as
come
a
about,
favorite.
though? Sorry,
I'm telling you, this team of mine, who is just being diligent on social media, and somebody, I think maybe they reached out to say, "Hey, we're doing this thing," and they liked it, and then invited us to come and be a part of the show.
Were you concerned about competition when you first opened?
I never have been worried about competition. I always just concerned myself with what God was saying to Mignon.
Right.
This is what I want you to do. And now I'm learning since the pandemic that competition is that collaboration is the new competition. That we all have to get together to create something if we're ever going to survive. And my son's father-in-law, his name is Dale Jones, said this to me. He said, well, collaboration is completion, not competition.
Right.
And so I love that's why collaboration works. And I believe that collaboration was something that was even taught in the creation story. So I think that collaboration is key. I never did worry about competition. And so I think it never has been an issue for me. That's not one of my problems.
Right. Well, okay. What is it? What is your problem? Let's get there. Why not?
Oh my gosh, what is my problem? My problem probably is that I don't really know what my problem is. I know what your problem is, but I don't know what my problem is, right?
I'm good at finding other people's problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't be on a jury. I could spot guilty people just like that.
I think all of us can always tell what somebody else's problem is, but we can't tell what our own problem is.
Well, there's a reason for that, and a lot of it is because I always say we're on the inside of our own bottle, right? You can only read the label if you're on the outside. So whenever you get counsel from other people about what you're going through and what may be the solution, it's easier for them to see it because there's no bias, right? So I've just always been... My spidey sense starts going off whenever I hear, and this is somewhat of the basis of this podcast as well, somebody talking about an issue that they're having in business. And if it has anything to do with advertising, marketing, or, basic business strategy, something like that, I can just open up and say, I know exactly what you need to do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, go do it. And I guarantee you, I just got a feeling about it, and whether they do or not is another story, but, I feel is right.
Yeah.
But, you and I talked about before we went live or started recording, possibly doing a podcast.
Yeah.
You want to start a podcast. You're wondering what it might be about.
Yeah. What would the
What would we talk
podcast
about?
even be about?
Right.
I don't. I think that's probably why we have it. As I have one of the prayers that I had in the beginning with God was, God, let me walk into a room and be able to speak intelligently on any subject that's being offered to me. And then some things started happening in my life. I started losing some stuff. I started having some hurts and pains, and I said, God, I take it back. I don't want to be able to speak intelligently on anything. There's some things I don't want to feel firsthand. So God, I just want to be able to have empathy for other people and whatever they might be going through. I don't want to feel it for myself. So I thought, I don't know what it would be about. Because I'm always concerned about what other people have going on. Well, what's going on with you? Instead of making myself the center.
Right.
And so maybe that's, part of the issue.
Well, I mean, it's something we could certainly talk about offline, but I mean, first and foremost, what comes to mind is again, that you do have an empathy for people. Relating your story to other businesses, what are some of the challenging times that come to mind that you've had in your business in the past 15 years?
Oh my gosh. When we first got started, it was about having enough money to be open. We were losing our house on the day that we opened that business. Some of the other things that I've been challenged with is when I first came to Germantown, people said no one's ever going to stand in line in Germantown for anything, let alone gourmet. And then we proved them wrong, and now we have lines out the door. But yet when the story is told about Germantown, we hear all these other great restaurants that are there. You should go here, you should go there. And there's not a mention of the Cupcake Collection. But without the Cupcake Collection, none of that is even able to be in existence. So it's like if you talk about Germantown in North Nashville and you don't mention the Cupcake Collection, all of your cool and credibility points are gone, because we are at the foundation of what that neighborhood is and what it became. People were coming to me asking to sign petitions so they could get buildings built, and coming to me and say, how is business here? Do you like it here? I was amongst all the industrial buildings when I opened up the Cupcake Collection. So it's very frustrating to me. Maybe I could say that would be a problem that I have. It's very frustrating to me to hear people talk about, Nashville and all of its great neighborhoods. Germantown was the first incorporated neighborhood in Nashville.
Right.
But then when you talk about that first incorporated neighborhood and what caused it to be hip and cool, well, I'm on the forefront of that at the Cupcake Collection. And if you don't mention that, in February, we get mentioned.
Right.
In June, we get mentioned. But February and June are not the only times for the Cupcake Collection to take its space as a leader in Germantown.
Well, that's what I mean. You did lead the way. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, at the other end was the family style eating place.
Monell's.
That's right. They were there before you?
Yeah. When I got started, Monell's was there and the Mad Platter. That was it.
That's right.
Germantown Cafe came right around the same time that the Cupcake Collection showed up. We were the only businesses in the neighborhood.
Wow.
So when, they decided to bring the sounds back to Sulphur-Dell, it was me on the news saying, this is why this is important to this community and why it needs to come right here.
Right.
And so, that can be very frustrating when you hear, all the James Beard award-winning chefs that are in Germantown. Well, yeah, they came on the heels of what was created for them to come into.
You were the OG.
I am the OG.
That's right. and still are.
Yeah.
But so you've since branched out. You've taken it back to, I guess, quote unquote, the homeland.
Yeah.
You've got a location in New Orleans, right?
Yes, I do.
Is it New Orleans? Is it New Orleans? Is it Nolans? How do you say it?
I think you could say it however you feel like saying it. I think it's New Orleans for me. Okay. I think it's people mocking that slow drawl that we have. That sounds like, what you're saying. But I really felt like if you could make it in New Orleans with food, it was like being on Broadway.
Yeah.
If you could make it there, you could make it anywhere.
Because it's so rich in food down there.
Man,
right?
You could go to somebody's grandmama's house and get, award-winning food.
Gumbo,
Yeah.
red beans and rice. I've actually been so intrigued with that area lately.
Really?
Yeah. We've driven through it a few times. I've got a client in Baton Rouge, right up the road, and I would always intentionally drive across the Pontchartrain Bridge.
Yes.
Because I'm fascinated with the architecture. 25-mile long bridge. You get to the middle of it, you can't see either side of the lake or land, right? And then you get to the other side of the bridge, and then you make a right and go up to Baton Rouge. But on the way back from Baton Rouge, I would always drive through New Orleans. Never really hung around. Never been to the French Quarter. Never did anything. Yeah. But I'm just intrigued by it.
I believe that there's no better place in the country to be from.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm biased on that.
Right.
But I love being a New Orleans girl. I think you could take, no matter how long I live outside of New Orleans, I will always be a New Orleans girl.
Really?
No matter where I live. When you get transplanted to other places, from other places, I feel like people say, they're starting to say that to me now. Well, you live in Nashville 19 years now. You're from Nashville. No, I'm not.
Yeah.
I love being in Nashville. I believe that Nashville is the only place I could have started my business and for it to thrive like it has, because I think that Nashville is open to whatever you bring to it that is good. They'll try it and they'll help you to
Nashville, and it's funny, one of the guests that I had on, Mr. Brad Lee, who's an influencer in his own right, he's out of Vegas mainly, so he and I had that connection instantly. He's been a two-time guest on the podcast. He moved here. He's got a place here now, and he gets freaked out because people recognize him. He says it doesn't happen so much in Vegas because, and I said, that makes sense. Nashville is so hyper entrepreneurial. It is, the spirit here is so alive, well, and kicking that I said, of course, people are going to recognize you because they just, they're tuned in to the business influencer
and
sphere.
I think that's what the Entrepreneur Center wanted for Nashville to.
You're the biggest chapter, right?
They wanted Nashville to be a hub for the place where you come to start business. And I think that has been the work of the Entrepreneur Center over the last several years, to make Nashville the home of where business comes to start. And so I think a lot of things have happened here to support that dream. And I think that besides coming here to make it in music, country music, you come here to make it in business.
I'm not sure if that's a big thing anymore.
Country music?
The musician aspect certainly is big, but there's so many other reasons now to come to Nashville.
Yeah. There's so many major corporations moving their headquarters here, and I think it's the work of the entrepreneurs that are in Nashville.
We've got a tennis championship tennis complex opening down here that they just announced. It's going to be developed and built right off of one of the main highways.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay. Somebody did the research.
I think that's also, when you think about the tourism, community here, when you look at what Butch Spiriton and his team is doing, at visitmusiccity.com, they are out scouring the country and bringing people, doing the work, all the things that you see happening over at our airport to bring in nonstop international flights, making Nashville a hub for international travel. All those things were intentional. And I think that, from widening our interstates to help with traffic before it got here. I mean, you can't leave a building in Nashville now at 2:00 and not be in traffic somewhere. But I think it's because of the work they did prior to all of this happening that at least we're not, in California size.
Well, I mean, when they built those highways here, they did not anticipate the growth that we're experiencing.
And so that's what, we saw happen with 440.
Yeah.
And all of that, if they got it done faster, there would be bonuses for getting done faster, and watching those people get that done. I think it just speaks to the spirit of the people who are here and that they want to make it a welcome place for anybody to be transplants to. Because, I know that people who are from Nashville don't like being called unicorns, but it's like you see more people who are not from Nashville than meeting the people who are.
A lot of California plates as of late. One was tailgating me today.
And New York.
Oh. Don't get me. I'm allowed to comment on the New Yorkers because I'm from that part of the country. And as of late, on all the different episodes, I've been like getting just saying stuff that comes out of my mouth that's going to tick somebody off. But whatever. You said that you're always from New Orleans. You're proud to be from New Orleans. I'm from Danbury, Connecticut. It can kiss my butt. I'm like, forget about it. And everybody that lives there, like that I'm friends with, they'll be like, yeah, I completely understand that.
Really?
Yeah. It's just, it's Connecticut. It's, they're the most civilized portion of the country. It's like, here I go again. I'm about to tick more people off. It's they consider themselves to be the most civilized part of the country, but they're some of the most uncivilized people ever. It's the armpit of the country.
Wow.
It's true, man.
Whereas in New Orleans, I feel like it's a party town. You can always go there for a really great meal. Yeah. There's always going to be something going on, always a reason to celebrate. Yeah. And I think I brought that always reason to celebrate culture here to Nashville with me.
That's true. You do see that a lot. Not that I've seen it firsthand, but it seems to be that's the tone down there.
Yeah, we had a saying growing up: others may only eat to live, but in New Orleans, we live to eat. Yeah, and that's
beignets.
Yeah, that's my cupcakes.
Cupcakes too. Of course.
Yeah, I'm trying to put cupcakes on the map in that way because we were voted best cake in Tennessee, and we were voted best cake in Louisiana. And we're ranked in the top 10 in the entire nation. And the only reason why we hold those two top spots is because that's the only two places where we are.
Guys, you can tell we're talking to somebody who loves her business because not only did she go through the mental torture that it can be to start a business and operate it and get it running well, where she can, step away and still have it run itself. But I said, I love this completely, chaotic, crazy notion of starting a business. I'm going to do it again in a different location. So, what were there had to be challenges with that.
Oh, yeah. It was harder to go home to New Orleans. I thought it was going to be easy. Right. But going home to New Orleans was a challenge for many different reasons. At the time when I started out to go to New Orleans, we ranked in the nation, I think, 51st. For women owning business. And so when you look at the numbers of minorities, those numbers are even more disparaging. And so I wanted to take my business to New Orleans because I was doing well here. I didn't want to watch my sisters struggle. And so I went to my next younger sister and said, if I taught you how to fish, would you fish? She said, every day. Right. And so I taught her the things that I knew. And so she started working what I had learned in Nashville over in New Orleans. And so it was difficult at first because New Orleans people are very skeptical about trying food from other people. And I think at first they didn't realize that I was one of them offering something. And so we have seen an explosion this year. I think this is year number 5 for us. We started in 2017, so this will be year number 5. It took us every bit of those 5 years to get to this place where people are now knowing about it and coming to it and loving it. So we're just, because when you go to New Orleans, you're going for gumbo and to drink and to have a good time and a party, and hopefully we can add cake to that too.
We added as a compliment to the beignets you can get. Right? Is Cafe Du Monde all as cracked up to be? You think?
Oh, I definitely think that. I think Cafe Du Monde is the place for beignets. If you want to be a beignet, you want to be like them. Are there some other good ones in the city? Yeah, but that's because they've been around. Right. You're steeped in that culture. Right. My 21-year-old makes amazing beignets, but he's been practicing since he was 14.
The last drive we did through New Orleans, I was coming back from a job we did in Baton Rouge at my client, and we stopped. We had to go use the bathroom and everything, but on the way there, we drove past, and it's not that I did it on purpose. I just happened. I'm like, oh, there it is, Cafe Du Monde. Yeah. It was a Saturday morning, I think. The line had to be 100 yards long. Yeah. Yeah. And I look at that and I go, okay, I'm good. Where's the next best?
It's not going to take long to get through the line.
Oh, really?
They know what they're doing. I think it's 3 guys that make the beignets, and they work like 12-hour shifts and they rotate.
Right.
So it's just those same 3 guys. And if you go around the back of Cafe Du Monde, you can actually watch them. They are literally making all of that by hand.
Wow.
They don't have machines and
Nothing.
just big, gigantic fryers. And now you can get them in the airport. So if you fly in, you
Really?
can get Cafe Du Monde right in the airport as soon as you get off. the
Is it just
concourse.
as good?
It's just as good.
Wow. Remember when Nashville Deli was in our airport?
Yeah.
What happened to that?
Yeah, I remember. That place is gone, though, right?
I think so. It was
Yeah,
a
I think-
Nashville staple.
Yeah, they're gone.
All the Nashville staples are going bye-bye.
Well,
Crazy.
I hope to not be one of those that
No.
ever leave.
No, you're definitely an attraction. People need to check out the Cupcake Collection when they visit Germantown in Nashville. So getting back to New Orleans, when I went through the last time, there was just a street, like 2 guys just playing music.
Yeah.
And it was a nice day. We had the windows down, and the music started filtering in. I'm like, I could sit here and listen to this for hours.
Yeah.
Just hang out.
You could do that. And guess what? It'll be going on for hours.
Right.
That's what I love
Reason to
about
celebrate,
it.
right?
That's what I love about it.
Have you ever seen the movie Chef with Jon Favreau?
I have.
Right. So Miami and New Orleans, as I said before, Miami's another city that I'm
I
fascinated
think that a lot of those border or those like Gulf cities are often a lot like islands.
Yeah.
So the culture that you see in those cities is going to be very similar to when you go off into an island like Bahamas or Jamaica or something like that, where it's going to be rich in music, very colorful, rich in food.
Energy.
The people are going to be just very hospitable. I even learned that as we have one of our Cupcake Collection daughters, she is from Hawaii.
Yeah.
And just watching her be, it's even the same. So when she came over and sort of intertwined into our culture, she just fit.
Yeah.
She fit within the family and what we were doing because it was already common.
Well, that's
for her.
because of you and the culture you created.
Is it me or is
Yeah.
it them because they?
Culture comes from the owner.
Look, okay.
It comes from CEO.
It does come from.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, it's the culture is going to mirror the personality of the person in charge.
I think I often have an issue with taking all of the responsibility for what the success of all of it is,
Right.
because if it's just me by myself, I can't do anything without these people. And then I gave birth to most of them, so
Right.
there's that.
In my opinion, I think that the attitude, the disposition of the owner is going to attract the right people. And the same, we had this conversation with Bradley in the first episode he was on. He struggles with culture development, and we both agreed that you're going to have a culture, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, is the case.
Yeah.
And he said that he had somebody reach out because he's very public, hugely on social and everything, very out there. And because of how he is, a woman reached out to him and said, I get you. I want to come work for you, come hell or high water. Let's just make it happen.
Yeah.
And I said, well, there's your answer.
Yeah.
I said, your social media presence is going to determine and attract the people who are like-minded and like-hearted to you. So that's as close as you're going to get to somebody treating the business like it's their own.
I always thought that was me too, though. I always thought that I was super transparent and open and vulnerable and just an open book for people to be able to access me for whatever they needed. But I just finished this project. I've kept my head down all year working on writing my book. Because every time I go someplace, somebody says, you should write a book. And so I
your
did.
story is great.
Yeah. So I finally got it done. And I learned in the process, I don't want to be, I've never been as vulnerable as I thought that I was until now.
Right.
Because I'm telling some stories now that I've never shared with anybody.
Well,
publicly.
let's talk about that. I mean, what's one that comes to mind, and do you want to talk about it here?
I think
heck, it's in the book.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of one that I would want to talk about here.
Yeah.
I think that people often want to be me.
Yeah.
Or people want to have what I have, and they don't know what it takes to be me.
Right.
They don't know what it took to become me, and how you often will catch me in the street with a big gigantic smile on my face, and you don't know what just happened in the hallway before I walked from the other side of the building into the door to come and serve you. I went through a very tumultuous divorce. I went through it kicking and screaming. I didn't want it to happen. But I had to do it with a smile on my face.
Yeah.
And all the while handling sometimes problems that were not real problems, considering my life, I was losing my life as I knew it. And someone was angry with me because the shade of red in her cake wasn't what she had imagined it was going to be. And here I am, having just wiped my eyes and pulled myself together to come on the other side and put a smile on my face and say, hi, how are you today? Because I felt like, I didn't ever want to give anybody my problems.
Right.
Because they were coming here to find a place to get joy. And so no matter how much they would have been gracious unto me, that's not what they came here for. They came here to find joy. And so I always felt like I had a responsibility to give them that. And so I went through that with a smile on my face, all the while dying on the inside. And I tell some very vulnerable stories in that book.
Yeah. Yeah, you and I have had some pretty deep, transparent conversations in the past where some of the things that you talked about were just really,
Yeah.
because on the surface you're just happy-go-lucky, but you're human at the same time.
Yeah.
And people tend to forget that.
And that's the thing that I always want to never lose the humanity of people.
Right.
I just want to always understand that that the people we encounter every day, that somebody's mother, somebody's child, someone really loves them and cares about them, and I'm one of those people.
Yeah.
And so I just try to be mindful of that. And there's so many people who aren't.
Yeah. I mean, social media doesn't help, because everybody shows their best life online.
And it makes you feel like you're not doing anything with yours.
Yeah. Whenever people would have kids, and I came across this realization early on when I had our first set of children, I realized early on that, you know what? I feel like I'm an awful parent, but I'm probably doing it right. That's what that probably means, And somebody had mentioned to me, it was actually the pastor at my church at the time. He and I had coffee, and he goes, "I just feel like I'm like damaging these kids, And I'm like, "No, it just means that you're doing it right."
Yeah.
I said, to accept the fact that we're going to screw them up somehow is just a given.
What I love about what I said earlier about collaborating and what you're saying right now is God tells us that we can't do anything without him anyway. Right. And he never intended for us to be self-helpers. Yeah. That we were supposed to depend on him. And I think about, I am the vine and you are the branches, and branches have to stay connected to the vine in order to get what they need. And so he never intended for us to do any of this alone anyway. So in our weakness, we can go to God and say, this is what I need. And he shows himself stronger to us. And that's, I think there's so much truth to what you're saying. You look like you're messing it up because you are, but if you get on your knees and ask God for help, He'll direct the path you're supposed to be going in.
Whenever I forget to pray a lot, but when I actually do, I can literally feel the weight being lifted off my shoulders. And it's a nice thing. And it's like, why don't I do this more?
Yeah.
But it's the amount of weight that's got to accumulate until I get to that point to have that, tactile feeling of, oh, okay.
I should have did this earlier.
I should have done it more often, but I won't have that feeling of, because it'll just be small problems being lifted off, right? So the book's coming out. Any date that it's going to be released?
I'm very excited. I just got the release date, I think 2 nights ago.
Right.
So it's coming May 9th. So just before Mother's Day.
What's it called?
It's called Made from Scratch.
Right.
Finding Success Without a Recipe.
Nice. And it plays so well into your origin story.
Yes.
Yeah.
How, I didn't know how to bake, not even out of a box.
That's right.
I use every stupid thing that I've ever had to do to lead me up until this place where I am in Nashville, needing a recipe to get me out of debt and brokenness.
Crazy.
And I climb out, literally scratching my way to the top.
Yeah.
From scratch, from nothing, zilch. Zero.
What's the future look like? Where are we going?
Oh man, I never really know the answer to that question except for wherever God is taking me, I'm willing to go.
Right.
I'm hoping that in these next several weeks that as we're promoting for this book and inviting people to sign up for, pre-release things, that they'll hop on board and come and be a part of this story with me.
Right.
I think it's relevant for the time right now in that women who look like me have begun to emerge in a way that we've never been able to before. And I think that seeing this story brings a lot of that same humanity to a lot of people who may not know what it took to the struggles that it was to make me land where I am today, because it wasn't easy.
No, it's not easy at all. Mm-hmm. And you coach a lot of people now. Mm-hmm. What's the common thing that you're constantly talking about with them?
I think people often want to know, how can they start with nothing? Mm-hmm. Like, I don't have anything either, but something's waking them up every night, telling them that they have what it takes. They can do it. This is a great idea. How do I do it when I don't have the money? And I think that it's about, I heard Eric Thomas say this last week. I got a chance to go to a summit that he was doing, the UOU summit. He said,
he's amazing.
He is amazing. Yeah. He said, what are you going to bring when you get your seat to the table? What are you going to serve that's going to be rare? And I was like, ooh, that is so good. And in another one of the sessions, he had his coach, Anthony Flynn, said his favorite Bible verse was Proverbs 22:29. Do you see a man skilled in his labor? He will serve before kings and not ordinary men. And those two things have resonated with me. That's what I've been able to do at the Cupcake Collection. I became skilled in my labor. I knew what I was doing and why I was doing it and how to get it done. And I've been able to serve before kings. I've been offered a seat at many tables, and what I'm bringing that's rare is an experience they haven't had before. Something that was made with love. This is what I love about cake. Mm-hmm. Cake takes you back to a time and place where somebody saw you. To know that a person made a cake for you is to know that they were intentional about you arriving. Right? That Jim was coming, it's his birthday, or he's accomplished this thing, and we're going to celebrate that, because cake takes time. And a lot of times where we're in our life and we're going through our struggles and our problems that we have, we're putting a premature name on those things. We're calling something that's not ready to be named in its finished season. So I give you the example. I can't call it cake when it's batter. Mm-hmm. When I first crack those eggs and I've got flour and sugar and everything's all the wet ingredients, that is not cake, that's batter. But if I mistakenly call that cake, I can't put a candle in it. I can't put icing on it. I can't serve it at the table and say, here, we were thinking about you. What I have to call it is what it is. And a lot of times we're calling things in their season the wrong thing. Mm-hmm. And so it's not until you put that cake into an oven, it experiences some heat, it goes through some changes before you can take it out, stack it, and make it beautiful by pouring buttercream. Even when it comes out and it looks like cake, it still ain't ready.
Yeah.
It's got to cool down. It's got to come off the high it's been on, right? And so that's why what I love about cake, when someone makes you a cake or brings you a cake, you know that they were intentional about celebrating you. Because you can't just wake up 10 minutes before you get there and say, I'm going to make you a cake. And I get to be intentional for people every day. I get to be that person that wakes up early in the morning, gets the ball rolling, changes that batter from batter into cake, and ices it for someone to go take it somewhere and say, I was being intentional about you today.
Yeah.
That's what my grandmother did for me. Every time I came to her house, if I said I wanted cake, it was going to be there by the time I made it to her house, because it was about a 2-hour drive to get there.
Oh, wow.
Someone inevitably always had already cut it before I even got there, because
Right.
you just couldn't resist it. But that's what I love about cake. It makes you sit down and enjoy that someone thought about you. And we believe at the Cupcake Collection, you should enjoy that minus the guilt. Because if love conquers all, it's got to also include calories.
You know, the analogy of the cake baking for somebody starting a business, it makes a lot of sense. But while you were talking about it, I was thinking about a plane taking off. Because a plane sitting on the runway is not exactly, you know, the prettiest thing. The landing gear is down. You got to ramp up the engines, and then, you know, the beginning of the business is starting your rise to speed on the runway, right? And then eventually you're going against the wind, which is very, very true in any sort of business. You're going against the wind. But what happens when a plane all of a sudden gets to the speed it needs to have? It takes off. The landing gear retracts. It becomes this beautiful silver gleaming bird flying through the air, and then but it takes all that stuff, a lot of energy to get off the ground. And it's funny because you had mentioned earlier in the interview how you thought it was just, well, I'm just going to hang a shingle and people are going to show up. No, this is going to take 5 years, you know?
Right.
And I always say that 5 years seems to be the number.
Yeah.
You know?
It does. You know, people, one of my, I guess another problem I have is people approaching me as if I'm new. Like I got here yesterday. I've been here.
They're seeing the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah. I've been working at this for 17 years of my life for you to experience this right now. Yeah. And I think that part of what all of that success looks like is what is being put in that every day. When I say it's not just me, it's the team around me. Like those girls and guys now, we got a pretty good balanced team now, are really doing their due diligence to grow and to make our name great. Because your name just doesn't become great because you will it to. It happens by the reputation and the character that you put behind it,
and the relationships you have with your customers.
Yeah, being who you say you're going to be, when you say you're going to be, how you say you're going to be, every single time has been what our goal is.
When you have the ambassadors that you have from your customers, you still have flaming ambassadors that are getting turned on every day. The first try, the Cupcake Collection.
Yeah,
you're still having that every day. People that are trying it for the first time.
We call it the sweet potato challenge.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because they're like, wow, sweet potato cupcake.
Yeah, they're like, what?
Really?
So there's a big billboard when you get off of 65. Is that 20? It's 65 going north. I think that's what it is at that point. Coming into Metro Center, says, come and take the sweet potato challenge.
Really? Yeah. And people are, wow.
People are coming in. So we saw a sign. It says something about a sweet potato challenge, but it was a cupcake.
Yeah.
Yes.
And what are typically their reactions?
What we hope that they're saying is it's so yam good.
Nice. The other one, again, that's in the video, we'll put it in the description, is the woman who described your cupcake as being anointed. It was a lemon cupcake, right?
Yeah.
Tell that story real quick.
A lady came in and she stopped me after she had that lemon cupcake and she was in tears. And she said she hadn't had cake this good since her mother had made it for her, and her mother had passed away. And she felt as though her mother was coming to her eating this cake. And those are the kinds of compliments that always seem to propel me forward. I've had so many encounters like that of people who feel that they have had a spiritual encounter when they've had the Cupcake Collection. I believe it's true because we pray for every customer before that store even opens every single day.
Wow.
Like, every person who experiences a team member at the Cupcake Collection should know that even though they may be considered on the lowest of career ladder, that they understand that their career is a calling even as a cashier.
Right.
And so we're hoping that we understand that everybody that comes in, they are sent. They don't come just because they are feeling like a cupcake today. They heard a calling that, drove their spirit over there. And that's what we really believe. Yeah. If they don't need it, we need it.
Yeah.
So they're sent to come because we need them to come, or vice versa.
Have you had instances where you had somebody that came in that you needed to meet for your own?
Oh, yeah. That's what I say. Even if it's not them who need it, sometimes we need them to come in because we were doing filming in the Cupcake Collection a couple of weeks ago, and the guy who was behind the camera actually was also a cameraman for a major television program and said, hey, I think you'd be awesome for what we have going on. Would you consider coming on? And I got a chance to be interviewed for that one too. So it's like one thing that you think this is happening for, it's really about something even greater.
It just kind of spreads on its own. Well, with all the increasing noise in the background, I think we're going to take our exit. How do people find and follow you and all that fun stuff?
So we're on all social channels at the Cupcake Collection. So we're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. We just introduced a YouTube channel. Mignon.Francois is now on YouTube.
Nice.
And also on Instagram. Mignon.Francois is on Instagram. And on the cupcakecollection.com, where we are open 24 hours a day through our ordering sort of app there.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Go look it up. And if you're in town, if you want to, I've actually sent cupcakes to my mother from the Cupcake Collection for Christmas time, and just as good as having them in store. So if you want to order them, make sure you do. Go to the Cupcake Collection, go to the website, order some for yourself. Trust me, you'll be glad you did. And of course, if you're here in town, make sure you're visiting the original store. And of course, if you're in New Orleans, go check them out.
Yeah, we got a new one coming up too. We're getting ready to introduce a second location in Nashville too.
Really?
Yeah.
Whereabouts?
I'm excited to, I don't know, can I say it yet? I think so. Oh yeah. Also, yeah. Thank you for that. We also have our food truck back.
Oh, there you go.
We were one of the first food trucks in the city. I think we were number 2 in the city, and we just reintroduced her. Her name is Joy, and so you'll find her all over the city. But our first next location, I believe, is coming to Lenox Village area.
Oh, Nolensville.
Nashville. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah.
You got to get you connected with Nick Hyder out there. He has his Hit Streak podcast.
Yeah.
So,
well, thank you for that.
Absolutely. We'll have to make the connection. Well, there you go. Follow us and find us at whatsyourproblempodcast.com. Again, we're going for 10,000 downloads. Let's put it out there. Let's pray about it. And, hopefully
prayer
we get
changes
something.
Things.
It really does. It takes the weight off everyone's shoulders. Find, follow, subscribe, share, all that fun stuff, and rate us. We always tell you that a 5-star rating is greatly appreciated. If you can't give it to us, let us know why. And we've got a mailing list now, so if you want to stay current, some of the podcast episodes that come about may not be up your alley, but, hey, one of them might, and you'll get notified through email. We'll cover about the last month's episodes in those emails, so make sure you sign up for that. Whatsyourproblempodcast.com. It's getting loud in here, so I'm going to say, Mignon, thank you for coming out.
Thanks for having me.
Always a fun time.